Welcome to GydeBites. I'm Prasanna, your host. Financial institutions today are under pressure to move faster on AI as everyone else, while still managing the risk, compliance, complex legacy environments, and so on. That's where agentic AI is starting to gain an attention, not just as another AI layer, but as a new way of coordinating decisions, taking actions across systems, and so on. Today, we are unfolding what it looks like in practice with Yuvraj Shiv Kumar. He's a head of product at Carbonar. He has over 10 years of experience across financial services, management consulting. He brings non-traditional paths to product in the age of AI, shaped by mostly decision systems that people rely on every day. Yuvraj, welcome to Guide Bytes. I'm glad you are here today with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. So let's get going, Yuvraj, very quick. How do we define AI-driven decision systems today in financial services?
It's a good question. To me, AI, driven decision systems are systems that use AI to kind of reason across data, context, objectives to really just support or automate high stakes decisions, right? What makes them different from traditional decision systems is that AI can reason across structured and unstructured data. It's able to translate natural language questions into analysis, synthesize information across sources, and generate recommendations in the flow of work. So in financial services, for example, it could mean structuring the inputs and analyses that drive decisions in sales and trading, in rebalancing a portfolio, identifying risk, underwriting, due diligence, client coverage, and kind of the list goes on.
Yeah, and you mentioned about various use cases, but how do these systems sort of improve the speed and accuracy of taking decisions? So can you share a few examples around it?
Yeah. So in my experience, the two components you mentioned, decision speed and accuracy are interesting, especially in kind of the financial services realm, right? They really improve speed by reducing the time spent finding data, cleaning it, and translating it into something that's decision ready. In financial services or consulting, the blocker is usually not the decision itself. It's really just getting the right inputs in the right structure at the right time, right? On the accuracy side, obviously that's been talked about a lot, and hallucinations is front and center. And in a space like financial services, you can't really afford that, but they really help improving the accuracy by giving the model and decision maker more complete context. It's not just really it's not a faster summary of the same information. Rather, the difference is between a summary and a synthesis.
All right, yeah, makes sense. And as you mentioned that the accuracy is of utmost importance in financial services. Which use case do you believe that they benefit the most from AI-driven decisions? Is there any sort of priority that you can talk about?
I would say the use cases that benefit the most are not necessarily broad categories. They're really situations, or any situation where a decision maker has two things, right? Either better data and a kind of proprietary, repeatable way of making a decision, right? So any use case which has those two things, I think benefit a lot from the AI powered or AI driven decision systems. Better data is because the system needs kind of a differentiated input to reason from, right? Otherwise, you basically just have a faster version of the same generic answer that everyone else can get. And the kind of proprietary and repeatable approach matters because this system needs structure. It needs to know what variables matter, how to weigh them, what questions to ask, and what good looks like, right? So that's really where they kind of become powerful for me, where they kind of combine data with a decision framework that can be applied consistently. If you have those two things, I think AI-driven decision systems can be applied to any use case within financial services, but also beyond that.
Yeah, and what about risks, right? Because the financial services world is sort of always the risk management aspect comes into picture. So, what risks come when you are deploying AI-driven decision systems?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about it in my previous life, and also advising clients on it in a not so in a more former life. But really, I think three things come to mind, or three major risks. Like one is an over reliance on the system, right? These systems can really kind of sound very convincing, even when the underlying data is incomplete or just wrong, right? Just plain wrong. And the risk is people kind of because it feels precise and there's a false sense of precision, and getting kind of lulled into that output, right? The second thing I'd say is a lack of differentiated input. I touched upon this briefly, but if everyone is using the same models on the same public data that the models are trained on, the outputs will ultimately converge. The system may be faster, it may look better, but it ultimately creates no systemic advantage. And you're spending a lot of time then trying to find the edge or the needle in the haystack with information overload. And I'd say maybe the third thing is governance, right? In financial services, especially, firms kind of need to know what data was used, right? In kind of driving recommendations or outputs from these systems, whether the system had the right to use it, right? At Carbon we spend a lot of time thinking about that, provenance, the attribution, what logic was applied, right? Was there a finger on the scale, and how kind of prompt engineering makes a difference, and who's accountable really for kind of the final decision. AI driven systems, whatever they are, wherever they are, whatever industry they are in, need guardrails and traceability from the start.
Yeah, I mean, all of what you said just resonates because the guard railing, the reproducibility, and the over reliance. We also hear that every time we sort of talk to CIOs and chief AI officers of financial services organization. So the last one for today, Yuvraj, was about a lot of times we hear that, okay, we are doing these pilots, AI pilots, they look great. And once you start to roll out the systems for various teams across orgs and so on, then it becomes a challenge. Then it doesn't work that great anymore the way they work in the pilot. So what does it actually take to scale systems across the organizations?
It's a great question, especially as large enterprises try to kind of roll this out and scale this across the board. So I'd say the first thing, and it's near and dear to obviously what I'm doing today, but is a common data foundation and structure, right? You can't really scale if every team in the org is getting data, cleaning it, joining it, and interpreting it differently, right? You also need kind of a repeatable decision framework, right? Is almost like a shared view of what inputs matter, how decisions should be evaluated, and ultimately like what good looks like, right? A good benchmark to test against across the org. I'd also say embedding the system in the workflows and meeting people where they work, right, is another super important part of it. If the system or the flow sits kind of outside where people work, it just doesn't get adopted. So you can spend a lot of time and money trying to scale these across an org, but if you're not meeting an analyst, for example, where they work, it's really hard to kind of get adoption. And then I touched on this earlier, but finally, I think probably the most important thing I'd say is governance from the start, right? That means are permissions set up in the right way? Are there audit trails, right? Is there explainability? How do you avoid the quote unquote AI slop, right? And make sure there's kind of clear accountability for how the system's used, when it's appropriate to use it, and is there attribution to an AI-driven decision system versus kind of where a human's been in the loop to help kind of augment the output that comes from there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the systems that are sort of embedded where they are work, we sort of have coined a term for that. It's like intelligence in the flow of work. So it makes sense, right? Because otherwise the systems stay in silos and no one cares to use them because it's not there in front of them. So totally resonate with that. Yuvraj, let's move to the next section for today. So we always ask our guests to leave our listeners with one piece of practical advice. What would you like to share with them?
I'd say don't be intimidated. So everyone actually makes decisions every day, right? Small ones like what to eat for breakfast in the morning, big ones that don't really matter, and then ones that have kind of a profound impact on the world around you. You don't really need to be technical or super sophisticated to use AI, right? To start kind of making better decisions in your life. You can start small, and you can really lean into a lot of the information out there to kind of take the first step. After you take the first step, you'll actually be able to unlock, and this was a personal kind of learning for me, be able to unlock a lot of opportunity to use these systems in a responsible way in your personal life, then in your professional life, and then to kind of combine the two to really kind of get the efficiencies that everybody talks about and the opportunities from.
Wow, thank you so much. So to our listeners, don't get intimidated and start using AI. There is no technical sort of requirement. You don't have to be engineer or technologist to start using AI. That was a good one, Yuvraj. So before we wrap up, there is a short rapid fire round. So just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready to go? All right. So one data mistake that leads to poor decisions.
Using incomplete or the wrong or poorly structured data, assuming that AI will fix it all for you.
One metric that reflects the decision quality.
Consistency, 100%. With the same inputs that you have, get you the same outputs.
One use case where AI-driven decisions deliver maximum impact according.
Oh, it's a good one. I'd say any use case where you have maybe the same thing, better data, a repeatable decision framework, right? Could be a multi-million-dollar trade, but also could be, like I said, what to eat for breakfast based on your sleep score, right, and nutrition goals.
And one barrier to scaling AI decisions, AI-driven systems, and so on.
Bad inputs, both on the type of data and the prompt, right? If the inputs are not structured, they're not trusted, they're not ready for AI, the output's just never gonna scale.
All right, thank you so much, Yuvraj. That was a really sharp conversation that we had, and it's lovely to have you here today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, and thank you for to our audience. And if you are walking away with the valuable insights, be sure to share it with your teams, your colleagues, and so on. And I will see you in the next episode.